I know, let's talk fans. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're talking NFC West.
The world still hitting them corners and them lolos.
It's the call of the Cardinals.
There's only one team, and they're the Seahawks. One.
Still taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. It's the DRE for the gangsters all across the world. Still.
There we go, folks. Welcome back to the NFC West Roundtable on Let's Talk Sports Network. We've got Big JT with us. How you doing, Philip?
Good.
Good to see you again. I know it's been a couple of weeks, and Bo's joined us again with his fancy TV background. Great to see you, fellas. I know Sam's driving around today, so he can't join us, but it's been a couple of weeks. It's great to catch up with you guys. I know since the last time we spoke, the NFC West, little bit of a different outlook now.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Things have kind of changed in those weeks. I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago that we were getting into that period of football season where, teams start to pull away or things start to change, and nowhere is it more obvious in the NFC West with some of the results that have happened recently.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's been a rough couple of weeks for really everybody but you guys.
Well, I mean, yeah. Quite frankly, yes. I mean, we're loving the last 3 or 4 weeks, Jason. Obviously, the Monday night in Mexico didn't go quite according to plan for you guys.
Yeah. No, to say the least. No, that was horrible. I was actually, as you know, I was in Disneyland with my family in California, so took a little break and caught a little sports bar in the Disney court to go and watch the game, and just surrounded by 49er fans and being the lone Cardinal fan decked out in my Rod Tidwell, Jerry Maguire jersey.
Loving that you were fully decked out, though.
Cardinal socks,
at least,
Cardinal hat, just ready to bring it. Feeling good about the first half, 17-10 going into that first half. We had one turnover, very misfortunate turnover, but I thought, you know what, we're hanging around knowing the Niners were a second half team, but I know that we are too. And then I don't think we ever came out of the locker room for the second half. I'm still not sure on that, but
didn't you? I think you stayed back for burritos and tacos. And
we
stuff
just got abused. But again, it's that, and I've said it since week one, and this is really a compliment, but a double-edged sword, kind of a backhanded compliment. And I've said it since week one, Gary. This you have the best 53-man roster in this division, hands down. It's not even close. But you never know which 49er team you're going to get, right? So you got, and this is this is a dichotomy, a microcosm of the season, right? The first half, you're letting a team like the Arizona Cardinals, who can't run the ball, backup quarterback, injuries galore, stay in the game.
Yeah,
and then
stuck around. We're still
second half,
made it tight. Yeah.
You look like a world beater. I mean,
it was bizarre. It was definitely the game of two halves, as you say. You stuck around, as you said, beaten up. Half your O-line not there. Your backup quarterback in. You kind of were running pretty okay against us. We weren't stopping too much. You were moving the ball. You were, 17-10. It could have been much closer. We weren't massively firing, and then suddenly, second half was just.
Yard gain on first down. So just setting the tone. So on first downs on the second half, all of our first downs in that second half we would gain 2 yards average. Conversely, the 49ers on first down in that second half would gain on average 8 yards. So when you're starting 2nd and 2 consistently, that number one opens up the entire playbook. But I mean, just shows how dominant you guys can actually be. But that's the 49ers, right? I mean, you guys come out and you can be world beaters and beat the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
But then you can also come out and lose to the Atlanta Hawks. You can lose to the Denver Broncos.
Not even lose to the Hawks. Not even lose to the Hawks. Absolutely get steamrolled by Atlanta. They outthought us, outcoached, whatever it was. They just.
I got a good buddy that's like, well, it's about health. It's about health. I'm like, it's not about health because you were fully healthy with the Chicago Bears. For you guys, it's about in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing, hey, listen, and you guys, I think a lot of Niner fans think it's about Jimmy G, right? He's got this ungodly number 40 and 18, I think, is Jimmy G's a starter, and he's just playing on another level this year, right? Top 6 in every single matrix. Well, let me throw another stat at you. He's 10-2 in games where the 49ers are 10-2 in games that Jimmy G throws 0 touchdowns. It's not about Jimmy G. You could have Bo in there, quarterback for the 49ers. It's not about the quarterback. It's about your running game and your defense. And as long as those two things are on point,
no,
the sky's the limit.
You know who this Niners team is, right? It's the Trent Dilfer-led.
Absolutely. That 2000 Trent Dilfer team. I forget who that starting. Who was that starting quarterback that got injured and Trent Dilfer had to step in the playoffs? But yeah, it didn't matter who the quarterback was because they had a run game that was unbelievable and a defense that was lights out. I mean, that's the 49ers.
That defense was insane. Like that was, one of the top 5 defenses all time.
Yeah. And going into that week, all we said was, listen, these are the 2 guys you need to be aware of. Fred Warner and Bosa. Warner and Bosa. And listen, you can be aware all you want. Every person in the stadium can be aware of those 2. It doesn't matter. If those 2 are on point and if that defense is on point, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
And I think Fred had a point to prove or was fired up for that with the Mexican heritage. And I know they made a lot of it from the 49ers side that, he's got Mexican grandparents and stuff. So he was really bought into that. And him running out with the flag and everything else, I think was just like a lit the touch paper. And it was interesting, that was yet again another second half shutout. Obviously from then, the Niners then rolled in, the Saints rolled into Levi and were completely shut out for the first time, finally did a 4-quarter shutdown against New Orleans. I mean, you got feel for the Saints, right? They managed to hold a team to 13 points. Most defense would be like, hey, we've done okay there. But, they're conversely, as you say, our 49er defense they just stifled that Saints game completely, and they had nothing to show for it. A couple of big turnovers, which were momentum changes, massive momentum changes, and then it was just the most comfortable 13-0 win that I've ever managed to sit and watch the 49ers, which is a weird one because 13, on the spread and everything, you think, 13 points were clear is a big spread, but for some reason it didn't feel like a 13-0 blowout. It was just 13-0 moved on. It was like it was done. It was easy. It was comfortable.
So when you look at the stats of that game, it was actually statistically a very close game outside of the that you got. I mean, when you look at the stats side by side, you guys played the exact same game. They just gave the ball up twice. Otherwise, that's a different animal altogether.
And the touchdown that we got was tipped and caught. If he'd have tipped it a little higher and managed to pull it down himself, and completely different. As I say, 2 turnovers or non-turnovers, massive momentum changes in that game. The one where Hufanga knocked the ball out on the goal line. If he'd have waited a couple of seconds and missed it, he'd just fallen in the end zone. Fine margins of the game. We all knew that. So we'll take the win. We'll take the shutout. Obviously, I mean, I think I'm slightly I don't want to say slightly concerned, but the momentum is great going into a massive game against the Twins. Massive game. This is like huge, but I also don't want the overconfidence level because this is basically this Finns team is flying, and it's going to be.
This is probably one of my favorite games coming into this weekend to watch.
Oh, no doubt.
You guys have. A top 3 defense, depending on which metric you look at. And then if there's any team that's going to give you problems or can find a wrinkle in that defense, it's going to be the speed of that Dolphins team. So that's going to be a ton of fun to watch. So yeah, of all the games this weekend, I think I'm looking forward to your game probably the most.
Yeah. And it's not just the speed and the wrinkles and stuff, but it's also Mike McDaniels knows our offense and our defense so well.
Sure.
He doesn't need to go to his analysts. He doesn't need to go to his scouts and say, tell me about their best player on defense, because he's got it all in his head, right? He knows them all already. So that may play to the Dolphins' advantage, to be honest, this week, I think, because from a Niners side, we have to go and scout the defense a little bit more, whereas Mike McDaniels goes, hey, I know Fred Warner. I know he studies. I know if we show him this, he's going to, because of the way he is, he'll think it's this play and he'll latch on. And, Mike McDaniels may just go, hey, look, Fred, we're running a sweep left. And, a screen right comes out, because it's that kind of nuance that maybe just plays into the Dolphins' hands just a little more. So, yeah, not confident this week. It's going to be, I think it'll be a great game, as you say, a fascinating game of offense versus defense. It's going to be like the ultimate chess match of Master and Junior. All of the storylines, that it's the Shanahan, McDaniels, Wilson, and Mostert coming back. It's just, there's so many stories. How it wasn't flexed, or how it's not made primetime TV, I don't know. There's somebody in the NFL and somebody in CBS and somebody have gone, you've missed a trick here, right? Surely.
I think above my pay scale. Go ahead, Bo.
I was just going to say, I think they're just determined to have primetime games just be really bad games this season.
Oh, no kidding, man. No kidding.
Yeah, it's like, who have they managed to go for? Didn't they go for, who is the primetime game this week, the Sunday night game?
I don't remember.
Cowboys, isn't it?
Yeah, I got to look. I don't remember offhand.
I think over in the UK we've got the Bucks on TV rather than the Niners Finns game or something. It's like, oof.
It is Cowboys
Colts. Yeah.
Colts. That's gonna not be a very good game.
Not at all.
Roll 'em.
Yeah.
It's just, the Cowboys are going to roll out. The offense of the Colts aren't good enough. The Cowboys defense is way up there. It's just not even going to be.
Well, and then of course the Monday night game is Saints Bucks. So that's a couple of Pee-wee teams going at it. So it's the primetime games again are just not great. I thought the Bills Pats game was going to be a little more competitive game than it was.
Yeah, the Thursday one. I thought that would be something that.
But it's Thursday night football this year.
Keeping with the really bad on Thursday. I think they've only managed to have one good game on Thursday, which is the very first one, right? Or something.
Well, and of course, Thanksgiving games were solid.
It was a good slate.
Oh,
actually.
yeah, for
slate.
sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Those were good.
For sure. Just to kind of piggyback, kind of go back to, I think when Seattle first kind of got their little hitch and bump in the road was that Buccaneers game. And I think that was the first. And of course, right before that, the show right before, I was really pumping up Seattle, and man, they were looking really good. And then of course, Ken Walker gets shut down for 14 yards. But I really think that was the recipe. And Tampa Bay, 1, got healthy at the right time. 2, had the right team for Seattle, right? And that's the recipe. Shut Ken Walker down. Make Geno Smith beat you. Geno Smith isn't going to make a lot of mistakes, but Geno Smith isn't necessarily going to win you games. So if you look at the box score, I think they lost last game, and it was like DK Metcalf had 15 targets. The next best wide receiver had 5. So it's like, shut down Ken Walker, have Geno Smith beat you, and he's just going to dump the ball to DK. He's going to try to hit DK as much as possible.
So the thing that's funny is, there's been a lot of Geno hate the last couple of weeks, but statistically, he's had the exact same game that he has every game this season. The fact that our defensive line couldn't stop the run in either game was that was because when you look at like last week, they put up 34 points having no running game. So Geno was getting the job done. They were moving the ball. They were scoring points. So, it's not like the offense became inept because the running game went away. Obviously, the fact that they couldn't open holes is a major concern moving forward, because anybody you meet in the playoffs, if you get there, has some form of running game. And when you look at how they were able to shut down running games kind of the weeks prior to that, they were going up against teams that didn't have good running game to begin with. And they jumped out to early leads in those games. So they kind of had to move away from, the running game in general. But, like I've said all year, our running defense and defense against tight ends in like slot and crossing routes is absolutely how you beat the Hawks, because they can't defend either of those.
Well, and to your point, when you get a lead and when you can get out in front of teams, then you can run a much more balanced attack. And when you get out in front of the sticks and you're running on time, right? Your offense looks a lot better. Case in point, us against the Rams. The Rams defense is ranked number 6. We had Colt McCoy in there at quarterback. I don't know if any of you caught that game, but we looked phenomenal. It was the first time we could actually run the ball. We got ahead automatically 7-0. We got ahead of the sticks on first down every time. And we had a great rushing game. When you could run a balance, I think that's happened to us maybe twice this year. When you have a balanced attack like that, man, and that keeps the defense off the field, man, great things are going to happen for you. Our leading rusher averages 3.8 yards a carry. He is by no means a world's beater, but again, if you can do that balanced attack, and I think that's what Seattle did, that was their recipe all season long, was just getting the running back, getting that balanced attack, implementing that run pass option. That defense started off pretty bad, but then was trending really nicely. Now they're kind of coming back to the mean. I think they were kind of outkicking their coverage, so to speak, there for a little bit. That defense isn't that great, but listen, I think Geno Smith, I'm not going to call him great, but I think Geno Smith is a really damn good quarterback, and I think he can take you to wherever you want to go.
So yes and no. He's kind of that. He's evolved into that kind of B+ talent, right? And the thing that he hasn't shown us all season, and again, as you get closer to the playoffs, it's a huge question mark, is so far this entire season, we don't have any points scored in the last 2 minutes of a game. And that's tough, right? Because as you're playing better teams, those games are going to be close, and if you can't even get down, because that's not just touchdowns, that's just points, period. So like we weren't even able to break into the 35-yard line and get, some field goals. So it is a huge area of concern. And some of that does fall on Geno, right? Because, you need your guy to be able to, out for one drive at the end of the game, be like, I got this, put the team on the back, and at least drive 40, 50 yards so you can get something on the board. And thus far, we haven't seen that from him. And it's not to say that he can't. A couple of those games, he just didn't have the opportunity. But, against the Raiders here, they had a prime opportunity in overtime. They got the stop, they got the ball, were able to do absolutely nothing with it. And then, of course, they gave up the 80-yard run to,
fold it in the middle and let Jacobs just.
Yeah, that was rough to watch.
But again, I think that falls back. I think he still had over 300 yards passing, and I do believe that wasn't a very good running game for you guys. I don't remember the exact stats, but I think you had under 70 yards rushing as a team, and
it was less than that.
That's not a very balanced attack, and that's not a very good Raiders defense.
It's not, but we made them look good.
You sure did.
At least
we've been doing that all year, so.
Yeah, no, I mean the biggest regression on the offensive side is the interior offensive line has not been able to open gaps for Walker. So I do a segment called Hawk Talk where I let people ask questions and respond to it, right? And one of them was like, are other teams figuring Walker out? And no, they're not figuring him out. It's just he went from being able to get 2 yards downfield before he's getting contact to he's getting contact 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And the only guy that's consistently been able to get through that and do anything meaningful was Barry Sanders. So, I mean,
he doesn't come around very often, does he?
Not at all. I mean, if you're getting contact 2 yards after you get the ball from your quarterback, I mean, you're going to have a long day. All of a sudden, your positive gain is to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what you said there, Jason, about the average. Your first down is 2 yards. And our first downs are 6 or 8 yards. Massive difference there. It does, as you say, gives you the ability to always be ahead of the chains, always be balanced, always be able to kind of have that fallback. But if your interior line are starting to suffer, fall off, because you're playing rookies on your offensive line right now anyway, aren't you, Bogus? A couple of rookies already.
We are too, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have 12 different offensive line units that we've started this year, which is number one or tied for number one with the Rams. And we've had 76 people on the injury list come game day, which is number one in the NFL. Now, I mean, as a season ticket holder and someone who watches the games fanatically, I don't really care. But it does explain to me why, we're not moving the ball like we should be moving the ball. When you have, Well, even with the weapons we have, we lost DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 weeks of the year, right? Then he comes back, and then Hollywood's gone. Then Hollywood comes back, and Ertz is out for the season. And then we get that, and the defense has just been in disarray. Rashard Lawrence, we were on a 3-4. Rashard Lawrence, that defensive tackle, and he's been out forever. And he played so good in a 3-4. If you don't have a defensive tackle that can make that pressure and make that noise and chaos and everything, man, it's really hard for you. But guys like J.J. Watt, Najee Sanders, Cam Thomas, those guys have been doing a great job. I want to point out Najee Sanders. He's a rookie outside linebacker for us who has 2 sacks for us. He's the guy that kind of replaced Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones has 0.5 sacks, a half a sack on the season. Najee Sanders has 2, and he's played about a fifth of the snaps. I did the trajectory, and if Najee Sanders played the same amount of snaps, he would have 10 sacks to Chandler Jones's half a sack so far. So I really like our youth. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot more of that for the rest of the rest of the 5 games with Cam Thomas, Najee Sanders. But it's just been frustrating to watch all the injuries and especially in those trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line. That's where football starts and stops. You go and you don't go. I say it all the time. I hate saying it. Look at San Fran. They go and they don't go as their offensive line and defensive line lets them.
Yeah, I know Sam's not with us, but their season, the last week or two for the Rams, they have just been. I don't even know who they've got left now. Not on IR. It sounds like
right.
Absolutely decimated. I mean, when I was looking at the injury report for the Rams yesterday, they have 11 players that either didn't practice or had limited practice during the week. And then you're going into this game with no Stafford, no Kupp, no Donald. I mean,
I think Jefferson's out.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah,
it's like not fair.
No,
it's
I mean,
they're
shutting it down for the year because I think they're actually going to keep Stafford out the rest of the season at this point.
Should bring him back, right?
Protocol again anyway. I mean, that's back-to-back games that he got knocked out. So
yeah,
you're going to go ahead and just curb him for the rest of the season. There's a chance that they end up doing it to Donald as well. Because, I mean,
on the ankle sprain, I don't see why bring him back.
What's that?
I would say with a high ankle sprain, 6 weeks or whatever else normal, why would you bring him back to risk making it worse or anything when your season is dead and done, right? I mean,
mathematically they're finished. I mean, so my worry about this though is they literally have Bobby Wagner playing against the Seahawks this week, and if they overlook them, there's still a chance that they lose this game. And so it worries me a lot. I really hope they're not looking past them. And then on the other hand, even if they come out and have an awesome game, it doesn't actually prove anything because you're beating up on second and third string players.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree. One, it's an NFL team, right? It's a professional team, and this can be a get-right game. You guys desperately need a get-right game.
I mean,
they need a game where you can play, a complementary football, offensive, defensive, special teams, and also allow people to get healthy, right? Hopefully you can sit people in the fourth quarter. You have a decent lead going into that fourth quarter. You can sit some people and then get healthy for the next week. So,
I mean, on the flip side, they're not too beat up, right? We came off a bye week into that Raiders game. So the team isn't too beat up, but you should be able to see some things you can build on, but you won't know how good they are because of the fact that you're not going against most of the starters, right? So it would be the same as if we went in and we beat San Fran versus we went in and beat the Texans. Yeah, it's an NFL team,
kind of, sort of, yeah.
So how I view that the Rams team right now is they're so beat up that, I mean, they really just don't have a lot of starters on the field.
It's really bizarre, isn't it, what's happened to them? I mean, it's karma, it's payback. It's a little bit of like, well, you go out, you go all in for one ring. You still, they still got the ring, so it's obviously worked out for them. But Detroit are rubbing their hands there at the moment, right? They must be thinking, what are they getting? 2 first rounders and a top 3 pick at the moment. It's
Hey, make no mistake about it. The Rams made out. I would give my left my left and right testicle. I have all 3 kids I need, so I would give both testicles for one.
You can have them
one
both.
ring.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? But yeah, Cardinal fans do not like the Rams. I mean, this goes back to last year. I don't know if it was a playoff game or towards the end of the season. Cam Akers was running around the end, and him and Buda Baker hit head on, and Buda Baker was out cold, and he was over top of him talking smack, and that really lit the Cardinals bench on fire. And man, the disdain we have for the Rams now is just, so yeah, talk about karma. But at the same time, as a fan, I'll take that one ring.
Yeah, lord it over everything.
For the
Yeah,
next 10 years,
100%.
100%. I said the same earlier on to Sam in a previous chat that we were having. It's just like, Detroit is sitting there going, hey, we're winning this trade now. It's like, you've got a ring. You've won that trade hands down. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
The potential of coming out of those picks, yeah, great. That might be very good for the Detroit Lions 4 years down the road. You're still Super Bowl champions, and you will always be Super Bowl champions. Hands down, you win that trade.
I can't. Any smack talk I talk with any football fan ends with, how many rings do you guys have?
Exactly.
And I can't say anything. Even if I'm like, well, in 1947, we actually won. And we went back in 1948. It wasn't called the Super Bowl then, but I got nothing. I can't say anything. In 2008, like, we were this close. And it was like one of the best Super Bowl moments of all time. And we were on the losing end. So I got nothing. But I tell you this, when we do win, because we will, I'm going to be crying like a baby.
I was actually kind of rooting for you guys in that one, just because Larry's such a good guy. I wanted him to get a ring, right? Like I'm not a Cardinals fan, but there's a couple of players you guys have had that I'm like, oh man, it'd be cool if they got one. Maybe not with you guys, but somewhere.
Yeah, it would have been nice. All right, Larry could have gone somewhere and got a ring, right? We'd have all been quite happy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even Cardinal fans were like, in his twilight back nine, well, really his last hole, we were like, hey, listen, if you can go to the Patriots, knowing Larry, that's not Larry. That's not Larry Fitzgerald. So, but Anquan Bolden is my favorite Cardinal of all time, and I really wanted to see him, get something. So, whatever, it is what it is. But no, yeah, that one ring. But yeah, you guys are San Fran set up really nice this year. I think every Super Bowl team has had a few things in common, and that's a run game and a defense. And that's two things you guys have: defenses travel, offenses win games, but defenses win championships. I don't know if you're going to win today. You should. I think it's 44 and a half.
46 and a half, I thought, wasn't it? I thought 44 or 46 and a half.
Oh, is that the line?
It seems pretty low. It seemed
kind of low. I'm like, man, Vegas is really thinking that San Fran defense is going to shut things down. And I really think, honestly, the one thing about that I love, listen, I grew up, the Cardinals weren't here until 88. So I grew up with a poster of Roger Craig on my wall and just idolizing Ronnie Lott, right? So, and the one thing you guys do as a defense is you play team defense. It's not a one-man show or a two-man show, kind of like the Rams did when, the Rams kind of have these 1, 2, 3 guys that are so special, kind of makes everybody look good. And San Fran, it's just the scheme. You all look good. And you play team defense. You have these 2 shutdown corners, but then your nickel corner is all world. So when you're all playing together and playing right, and you don't have to blitz. You can play a cover 2. You can play one safety up top. It doesn't matter. And when you can play one safety up top, not blitz, it changes the way offenses can run their offense. When we're running D-Hop and Hollywood, and you're not running a cover 2, you don't have 2 safeties up top. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're not scared that we
that's
have
not fair. That's not fair.
Hollywood? You're like, no.
Oh, because by the time you look for those guys, our front 4 are already right in the face.
Absolutely. And poor McCoy has about 2.5, 3 seconds to get that ball out. Otherwise, he's going to get disabled. And so, You know, it's just not. But again, the 49ers, it's all right here. And, you know, something you said earlier about getting overconfident. I kind of think San Fran does kind of need that. I do think they need that. Not over, but I do think they need that confidence to say or to think we are the best in the world, period, hands down. And we need to stop messing around and start showing that.
I almost need to stop talking, not talking down about our chances, but actually, you know, talking them up a little bit, at least being a little bit.
It.
Yeah.
I
think Shanahan's very good at being the let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not.
I think he is too.
But sometimes you kind of got to go, guys, we just shut out a team. We haven't let a team score in the last, 4 halves, 5 halves, or whatever else. We have a number one defense. Let's go out there and, kick some ass.
And Raheem Morris, what a job he's doing. But Robert Saleh, he did a great job too. It's like, man, it's sickening.
Yeah. Must admit, I'm loving it right now. But
I'm sure you are.
I went through the Jim Tomsula years. Come on. So we've all been through those hideous times of hideous years of nastiness, and it's quite interesting because some of the 49er UK guys are reasonably new to the game, so they're like, "Oh, this is the best ever," and you're like, hang on a minute, let's not get carried away. And some of the older guys like us, like myself and Paul and stuff, are like, "Hey, hang on, you've only been supporting for 10 years. You've only seen pretty good. You haven't seen the hideousness or the really good." So it's the kind of that sort of window of opportunity, and it's quite nice to see the naivety almost of like the Stan at the moment in Twitter and social media of this quarterback, that quarterback. It's just like, guys, we had Jim, we had Joe, we had Steve, and then we had nothing for years. Mm-hmm. Ride the wave now. Enjoy what you've got, because we had 25 years of Elvis Gerback and JT Sullivan. Come on,
you realize Cardinal fan though is looking at you really.
And suddenly realize,
really?
just like, oh, poor you, poor you. Yours.
You had Joe Montana and Steve Young. Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah, poor us, right?
No, like I get it though, because you get the same thing with Hawks fans, the ones that have been around for, the last decade or so, and they didn't have to endure the 90s being a Hawks fan where, you had the Tom Flores 2-14 just debacle of a year. And so when they were in between stadiums playing at Husky Stadium, where, we were 6 minutes. And it was rough to watch. And I went to some of those games where you're just sitting there like, you're 10 minutes in and you're like, well, damn.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I watched us lose 40 yards on a kickoff because we kept running backwards. Like it was, or on a punt. I mean, it was crazy.
We've all got those horrid year seasons, haven't we, where we can all kind of call on, oh, do you remember that one? Oh yeah.
Again, you've had bad droughts. Again, Cardinal fans looking at you like, really? But it's since 2005. I'd probably say a season before. You guys have been consistently good, right? Yeah. I mean, and then you should have won that Super Bowl. You should have won it, right? The refs just gave it to Pittsburgh. Here you go. 2 phantom PI calls that they showed the replay. We're like, what?
They're like, here's a gift wrap.
Yeah, no, that wasn't pass interference. And then Pete Carroll shows up, and as a defensive lover, he creates this Legion of Boom. And I'm like, man, this is insane. That you see other people trying to copy. I saw Bruce Arians trying to copy it. And it's just, man, you guys have just sustained that success for so long. And then, you have this, what you think is going to be a throwaway year with throwaway players and rebuilding, and nope.
Yeah. So, I mean,
right in there. I mean, that's been
into the season, sports media was saying we were going to be a 3-win team. And, we still have a pretty clear path to be a 10-win team.
Of course you do. And conversely, as a Cardinal fan, Cliff comes on and takes a 3-win team to 5 wins to 8 wins to last year 11 wins. So this year, I'm thinking 11, 12 wins, right, is in the cards. And then we're doing what we're doing. So on the outside looking in, NFC West fans, as you guys are, what do you guys see is the Cardinals' issue? What can be fixed? Do you think we need a new head coach? What do you think?
So I think you have some continuity issues. I mean, obviously, injuries are huge, right? Injuries have just plagued your season, but there does seem to be some some behind the scenes issues with, with
Kyler.
Murray. Now, Cliff is going to take the fall, right? Because they similar to the Broncos with Russ, right? The coach is going to take the fall because they just signed a big contract for the quarterback. That's your guy, right? Like the contract's long. There's tons of debt. There's nothing. So that's your guy, good or bad, is what it is. And so in that scenario, the coach is who ends up getting axed. Do I think he should? I mean, there's been some head scratchers as far as calls, obviously, but I don't think coaching is what is wrong with what's going on. I mean, it's not like with all your backup guys, you're leading the league in penalties or anything. So it's not like it's a coach up issue, right? I mean, they're playing to the best of their ability. They're just in a division where the other guys are also really good. Yeah. And so I don't know that Cliff is necessarily the problem. Does he take the fall for it? Probably.
Inevitably, he's going to be the fall guy, as you say it. And is it Kyler? Is it the whole pre-season hoo-ha, the contract, the study time, and all of that noise? Yeah. Did that distract from pre-season and getting ready for the season? Maybe, but
some of it is also the way he carries himself, even to the podium, right? He kind of throws these like underhanded digs from time to time that are just not necessary from your quarterback, right? Like he's supposed to be the face of he's supposed to be the most cliche dude in front of the mic ever.
Everyone knows what he's going to say, right?
100%. Like you go up there, if you win, it's, hey, we won.
We did as a team. We done as a team. Yeah, it's on me. It's on me. Like Zach Wilson the other day, whenever it was at the Jets, when he was asked, was it, do you have anything to apologize to your defense for? And he said, no.
Yeah. And it's like a smug jackass doing it. And
yeah.
So unfortunately, that absolutely rubs guys in the locker room the wrong way. And if you're saying that kind of stuff in front of the camera, what are you saying behind it? Right?
Yeah.
So then if you have that kind of stuff behind the camera, all of a sudden you can have O-linemen that are like, I missed that block.
Yeah. Well, and the last comment he made, and we'll talk about that in a second, but his teammates come out and love him. Buda Baker has come out on record and said he loves Kyler Murray. Cedar Smith is our rookie offensive lineman who's played all over the offensive line this year. And it's like people misunderstand Kyler's passion for football. And I think you're right. He gets a microphone in his hand. He is the opposite of Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer was just a pro's pro. He got in front of a microphone and said exactly what you would want him to say. Didn't matter if that was what he was thinking. Didn't matter if that was even the truth. He said exactly what he was supposed to say. Kyler doesn't do that. And his last press conference they asked him about a play in the Chargers game. And he said, schematically, we were effed.
Yep.
Now, my cousin sent me that. A lot of people sent me that, and they're like, oh, what a smug little midget, right? I'm like, well, that's not the way I took it. The way I took it, and if you watch the game and if you listen to Kyler and you follow this team like I do, he was just being very factual. It was an RPO, right? So he got the ball in shotgun formation, and he went to go hand the ball off. The defensive end shed his block, so he couldn't hand it off to James Conner. James Conner would have got an 8 for a 2-yard loss. So his throw option was underneath to Trey McBride, right? Well, the safety read it perfectly and was on Trey McBride like white on rice. So all of a sudden, his two options in an RPO on a 4th and 1 are completely eaten. So he's like, so he just throws it up to D-Hop. So the question was, explain to me what you were thinking or what was going on that play. And he said, the pass or the play was not designed to go to D-Hop, and we were just schematically effed. I don't really find an issue with that statement. We were, but again, would Carson Palmer have said that? Absolutely not.
No, but in the same breath, right? You have your quarterback there. He can say that exact same thing.
He can be thinking it in a different way.
can even say it. He can just say it in a way that praises the defense, as opposed to saying our coaching staff and the way we played the play was messed up. Because you say, hey, this was the call. This is what I was saying.
But that defense blew it up. Yeah.
They played it to perfection. They read my read. Like, there's so many ways that you can break that down where you don't look like you're throwing the entire coaching staff under the bus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where, especially from the outside, because again, we're not in the locker room, so we don't really know. But that's from the outside. You're like, okay, there has to be something going on. And then, the problem with him saying stuff like that is the ownership group is also not in the locker room. So if this is what they're seeing, then all of a sudden they're like, well, do we need to make a coaching change? Even though there has been forward progress over the last couple of years, now from the outside, especially if they're mostly watching it on TV, as most owners do, then they're like, oh man, do we have a problem? Do we have to make a change? And so, he can inadvertently be causing an issue, even if there isn't one.
Right.
And then, he says something like that, and then socials take it up and it gets investigated, and, minuscule things. And what he said 3 weeks ago could be twisted. And as you say, from an external point of view, people start to go, oh, there's an issue. Maybe there is a bit of friction. Maybe there isn't such, maybe the defense is coming out saying they love Kyler just to kind of smooth the waters, but really it's not. Is there underhanded stuff? But I think this year, as you say, your progression from the previous years, from a 3 winning team, 5 wins, 8 wins, 10. It's a bad year. You've been decimated on injuries. It has to come. You've got to take a lot of the fact that there's not much wrong with the team, but you are beaten up and you are not being able. I think losing D-Hop for the first 6 weeks probably hurt a little deeper than maybe we thought, because it was inevitable he was going to be your kind of go-to guy, and for 6 weeks you had to find something else, and you did pretty well in that. But now maybe now he's back. Is there an imbalance again of trying to get the ball to him too much, which is affecting the rest of it? Or is it just he's back, the O-line is beaten up, you have no continuity in the fact that, as you say, you've played 12 O-lines in 12 weeks. You can't get any sort of continuity. Those guys work well in, you know what an O-line works. They work together over and over again. They practice together. They play together. They get that timing. They know that they can lean on that guy because his timing is a little bit better. Whatever else, if you're doing that every week with a new set of guys, your confidence isn't there. You're always like, I've got to do my job and a little bit of his, or you're always second guessing what the guy inside you is doing.
Right.
And that's got to be it.
You are forcing it to, D-hop a lot. Because a lot of times you're playing from behind, or you're playing because that O-line is just letting people through. You're second and 12, you're second and 14. And, so it's just like, at that point, most of your playbook's gone because there's not a lot of plays for second or third and
15. Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden it's huck it up to your tall guy and hope for the best.
For quarterbacks who qualify, I think it was 300 snaps. He ranks dead last in the league from the time he gets the ball to the time he gets first contact by a defender. He has 2.2 seconds to get rid of that ball, which is dead last. So, the offensive line hasn't done him any favors. But like Bo said, I mean, that's definitely an area opportunity where he can grow. It's just when he gets in front of that microphone, saying things that he might be thinking or whatever, but just say it in a way that doesn't. Trash
don't
other people, because
you can highlight, as you say,
how that
highlight
can be
the
interpreted
defense
like that. But if I don't know, but I can definitely see how you could have said that differently.
You could have said exactly
point across.
But say the same thing, but say it in a way that your team didn't do anything wrong. It was the defense that kind of blew it up, or whatever else. But you've got to be able to.
Which
word
San Diego did. The Chargers did. To their credit, man.
Well, and of course, you can also call out, like you could call out your O-line or whatever, but you can, kind of tailor it to be like, there's things that I can do to help that unit out. So even though they're having an issue in this area of pass blocking, like I can move in ways that'll make that job easier for him. So, I mean, like there's things that he can say where he could even still call out specific units without just railroading them to do it.
I think
the interior is struggling.
I think a little
I
bit of
can
the
move
problem
out and
too
roll out or something.
is how talented he is.
Mm.
Like, so there was never a quarterback controversy in that locker room ever. It was just amongst Cardinal fans. Some of the Cardinal fans were like, "Oh, it should be Colt McCoy, Colt McCoy." Cole came out and said, "I know my role. I know who I am. I have never and will never be what Kyler Murray is. He has so much talent." And this is coming from Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
So
He's no
I
slouch.
think maybe some of the issue is Kyler knows how talented he is.
Mhm.
You can be the most talented player in the world, and if it doesn't translate, and if you can't lead men on that football field, and if it does not translate on that football field, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. It comes across a little bit of petulance as well, doesn't it? You can be the best player on the pitch, but you've got to work with what you have. You can't be, we all did it as kids. There's always one player who was like head and shoulders above everybody else, and the good ones made everybody else better around them, rather than just flash. Look how brilliant I am. It's like, yeah, but all that's done is you've run around for 35 seconds and then got absolutely smashed. Whereas the really good players made everyone else better around them. So maybe and you can understand it. Maybe some of those guys aren't as good as him, but not many people are going to be. But the other guys are all busting their gut. They're all busting everything as much as they can to do what they can with maybe more limitations than he has. So he's got to kind of maybe temper his expectations, lower it a little bit, and play within the confines of what's being offered to him. And that's what Gino, in a weird segue, that's what Gino's done really well. What's been offered to Gino, he's taken it, pushed it to the boundaries and go, right, this is my limit. This is what this team is giving me, and I'll take it as far as I can. And I won't reach for more. I won't try to be more than I am or show, and Kyler is above and beyond better than Gino, naturally talented, all the arm strength, the speed and what he can move. But maybe he just doesn't have the complementary pieces around him to allow him to shine. He has to kind of temper it with, this is what I have, let's use it. Next year it will be better because hopefully the guys are fitter, or even if they're not fitter, the guys who've gone through the mill this year have that experience, can lean on each other going, God, last year was bad, let's not be that bad again. Lots of that sort of stuff could come out of this year.
It's funny because when Kyler first came in, he was when he first came in, he was compared to Russell Wilson a lot, right? And it was a fair comparison because he's mobile and he likes to stretch the field, but he doesn't necessarily love his outlet routes. And with how beat up that O-line is, you would hope that he would use them more than he has. Now, I don't know if it's a visibility problem. Maybe he's not seeing that area of the field particularly great in those moments. And of course, he's running for his life, immediately anyway. But it's funny because he does seem to go more towards that sort of medium length throws, and rather than taking some of the things that have been available when you watch film. But again, that's easy to say on the couch, drinking a beer, going, oh, he should have hit that guy.
Should have hit the check down. That check down was right there. Yeah, but as you say, 2.2 seconds, there's a defensive end on his face.
Actually he is doing that this year. The first, I would say, 3 years, he did not do that, but he did lead the league in completion percentage. He led the league in completion percentage and throws over 20 yards. Last year, Joe Burrow beat him out, I think, the last week or two in completion percentage and throws over 20 yards. But this year, I think it's one completion over 40 yards. He has just not thrown the ball deep on a regular basis this year, and I think that's a number of things. One, that offensive line is just not giving him time for that receiver to get deep, number one. Number two, defenses are just playing. They realize, listen, so I think it was a Seahawks game. You guys just played them perfectly. That I'm playing that cover two. I'm just going to sandwich and double D-Hop that whole game. Shut D-Hop down. I know you don't have a run game because your offensive line is so broken. How in the world are you going to beat us? You're right. You're absolutely right. So, but Cardinal fans, and kind of rightfully so, are getting mad because he's checking the ball down so much. But what else is he supposed to do? Rondale Moore's last touchdown was a 5-yard pass that he broke off for 35 yards. So, but they're getting really tired of those screen passes, those little dink and dunks, and it's like he doesn't have the time to throw the ball downfield.
No, I mean that's your biggest issue is the checkdowns that you have used. There have been a lot of screen passes that the defense already knows is happening. I mean, they're in the backfield trying to catch that pass with you. So it's really tough to make those a good play, right?
It's kind of hard to sell.
Here comes.
It's kind of hard to sell the screen pass when your O line is letting them through anyway. It's like, well, it doesn't. You read it like a screen anyway because you're just so porous most of the time.
Play is a screen.
Well, it's funny because I think our first play for San Fran was an end around with Rondell Moore that he pulled his hamstring, right? And you get him for a 2-yard loss, pulls his hamstring, he's out for the game. He was out for the next game, actually. You guys did an end around later in that game with Deebo Samuel for like a 12-yard gain. It's like that's the difference between the two. You just pepper it in here and there. It's a staple in our offense that the defenses are just key to it. They're like, watch for that formation, that setup, and that end around that they do all the time.
As you say, you can drop it in every now and again as a sort of nobody saw it coming type play. But as you say, if you're doing it 4 times a game, it's like, here it is again. Here we go. Here we go again. Here we go again. So
Well, it's some of that is when you're watching that end around, you're also not getting good blocking on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, when you have your receiver and a tight end out there that can't slow the defender down, not even like a solid block, they just like run right
get in the way.
Well, of course you're caught behind.
And again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but that goes back to injuries. And when you have an injury to Hollywood Brown and you got an injury to Rondell Moore and you got Greg Dortch in there, or you got
a pretty good game against us, I thought.
Andre Baselli was on our practice squad. He's a practice squad guy, but he's been put in the starting lineup. Even Robbie Anderson, I don't like him as a wide receiver, especially in our offense at all. I think he's caught 2 balls this year since we got him, but he's not a great blocking wide receiver. So, to your point, Bo, I mean, when you do stuff like that, you better make sure that you seal that in. You have good blocking on the outside. Otherwise, it's not going to go for anywhere, and it hasn't really.
Yeah, and that's the difference. When San Fran throw it in, you got Kittle, you got Ayuk, you got people out there who they know that if they don't block, they're not in a team, and it's all block, no rock, and it's just
Shanahan's gonna make sure if you don't block, you're not on this team. So
you ain't getting the ball.
We're a run first team, run first down, second down to third down team.
I mean, it'll be interesting this week. I mean, we need to run well this week. I know McCaffrey was dealing with a knee irritation. We're missing Mitchell. That's a big loss for us now. He's gone to IR. So I think I'm going to see a lot of Jordan Mason, the undrafted rookie. Ty Davis Price.
Going to see a lot of Tyrion Davis Price. Yeah. And McCaffrey was a full go practice on Wednesday and Thursday. And he's supposed to be cleared today. But I really think they're going to take precautionary measures. And you're going to see that Davis Price.
I think they'll cap his cap. Yeah. I think and it's good. It'll be good to see him because I think they brought him to be the bruising inside the tackles, inside the A runner. So it'll be good to get him out there and see what he's got.
What I'm excited to see is how that San Fran defense treats Jeff Wilson. I want to see that, man. I'm going to be there with my popcorn.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
And
because I mean, I know there's been I know the media's kind of taken some of Raheem Mostert's kind of comments as well, a little bit out of sorts.
Yeah, Wilson.
As the media do. Wilson and Mostert both sort of get, oh look, this team's more talented than than the other one, or it's like, well, no, this team is more talented than you thought it was when you walked in it, or a comment. I think it was a comment about Tua where it's like he said, well, it was nice to come in and find a quarterback that can actually sling it. And it sounds like he's saying that Jimmy G can't sling it, but what he was actually saying is, I believe the hype that Tua couldn't throw the ball. So when he got there, he saw he actually could sling it. And you can see 2 nuanced ways of putting that, but obviously the reporting way, it sounds a lot more fun if he actually twist it so that he's having to go at his old team. But I mean, as you say, there's so much, the 2 running backs, there's a couple of wide receivers there who are ex from the Niners. Then there's all the coaching staff. It's just going to be a great game to sit down and just say, get your popcorn, get all the snacks ready, and just watch it, just go at it. And I think for 60 minutes they'll go at it at each other, and then then all the camaraderie and everything else afterwards. But I just think it's going to be a great game to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I mean, Bo, you've got an easy win this week, right? You could mail it in two and a half quarters and then sit everybody down.
I hope so. If the Seahawks have done anything through the entire time I've watched them, right, and I started watching them, is they play down to competition more than any other team I think I've ever watched. Like they will play a good team tough and then just absolutely fall apart against a team that'll have one or two wins during so prime example. I remember going to a game. We were playing against the 0-5 Saints, right? And we were coming off of just an absolute beatdown of the Cardinals. And
you had to throw that in there.
Had to be, didn't it? It was like, it was coming.
Just throw that in. But and so I'm sitting around, a bunch of Saints fans, and naturally I'm talking because I'm at the game and it's fun. And we're 2 quarters in, and it was just like, I'm like, oh, you guys are about to go 0-6. Your season's already over, and and then here they come, and we did nothing. I mean, we couldn't run, we couldn't pass. We were beat in all 3 phases of the game, and so. I mean, you never know, right? So we go in against a Rams team that is absolutely decimated with injuries, has half of their starters on the field, and the ones that are there are hurt. And I mean, it may not.
Do you play down? Is it too overconfident?
I mean, the line on it's only 4 points. So yeah, right. That's not great. I mean, granted, we're the away team, so that's essentially a touchdown, really. But still, it's
not at SoFi.
Confident.
Yeah, I would smash that on betting. I would definitely take the Seahawks -4 on that one. But then you guys welcome the Panthers, right, next week, which we just played the Chargers, which we had more runs than passes. We've done that twice this year. Last week, and I think in week 4 against the Panthers. So the Panthers can be run against, and that's the one thing you guys do very, very well. So 2 very winnable games.
Well, and Darnold. So, he is just despite what the Broncos made him look like, he's not a great quarterback. Like he's
no, he's not.
He's very, he's like a C- type talent. So our defense should be able to do something against him.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting if you get 2 wins, as you say, you roll the Rams, beat the Panthers, then that Thursday night game in Seattle suddenly takes on huge connotations, because if we beat the Finns, we beat the Bucks, and then we're rolling into Seattle on that Thursday night short week. That game's suddenly massive.
See what I mean, Bo? Like that's your road to that Thursday night game is a lot easier, and there's more opportunity to rest players than San Fran. San Fran's got 2 tough games. Minnesota, or I'm sorry, Miami is that Maserati, right? They got all the shiny weapons that are super, super, super fast. And guess what? Tampa Bay's no joke, as Seattle knows, and Bo knows.
Tampa Bay's like the Jeep, right? They got big lumps.
Dude,
they're
getting healthy at the right time. They can play that run defense like you wouldn't believe. Looks like Tom's getting back all of his weapons at the right time. Had a little hiccup last week, but that's a good football team over there with good coaches, and they know what they're doing. So that path the 49ers have to that Thursday night matchup with you guys, Bo, and the path you have is just different.
No, like that game is going to be amazing. Like that's what circled on my calendar, because I mean that's going to be potentially for the division. Honestly, like that could be the deciding factor right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken Friday morning off for that one because I'm staying up. I'm watching that one. There's absolutely no way I'm going to work Friday morning after that. I mean, that will finish 4:35 a.m. over here. There's no chance. I mean, no chance we'll get to sleep before 9 a.m. after that game. So it's like, taking that day off, forget it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you guys have Sunday Ticket over there, right? I mean, you guys have NFL Sunday Ticket. Is it called Sunday Ticket over there?
So it's just called NFL Sunday here. So, I mean, we've got...
Yeah, down here I have Game Pass. So I have NFL Game Pass. So that's how I watch all the games down here.
Okay, where are you at, Bo?
I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
UK we get Game Pass, but you get the international Game Pass, so it's slightly different,
okay.
But the flip side for the UK is the cable network over here that has broadcasting rights. If they're showing your team, you can't watch it on Game Pass.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
It
where
sucks.
VPNs come in.
It sucks.
That's where VPNs
Because-
come in. Because then you just change
Yeah.
the location.
You just pretend you're not there. But
Yeah.
but basically, when the Niners are on the late game, and they've been on the late game now, 3 weeks this year. There've been a 9:25 kickoff, and it's been the late game. But there's always been like an overtime game or an early game that's overrun, and so we've only ever switched on a quarter in. But you're not able to watch it on Game Pass because they black it out. So you're kind of watching Red Zone, and we have Red Zone, but we have a dedicated channel for Red Zone and a dedicated channel for the main game. But often what happens is the Red Zone channel takes over the main channel until that last game from the early slate is finished. It's like,
Oh, weird.
come on, guys. We're paying money to watch the game that you've said you're going to put on. You've blacked it out from everywhere else, so you can't watch it on Game Pass. But you're not
Yeah,
showing
they
it.
need to get
It's
that.
like-
They need to get that. Well, here in the U.S., as Bo knows, we have Sunday ticket. So I have Sunday ticket. So I have all the games. We have the Red Zone channel. I'm a season ticket holder, so as a season ticket holder, we get Game Pass for free. So I have Game Pass, but I want them to come out and Sunday ticket's like $300, and I want them to come out with a half a package because as a season ticket holder, I go to all the Cardinals home games, right? So I'm only theoretically watching
half of those. Yeah.
right? I'm like, if you do a half season ticket package, I'll sign a contract for 10 years where I'm buying it.
Sign me up right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but it's really nice to have that, Sunday ticket. You get to watch all the games, and they have that Red Zone channel where you get to watch all the games in the Red Zone or
The Red Zone channel is one of the best things that the NFL Network's ever put together. I don't know who came up with it.
It's amazing.
And you look at it, it's literally one guy behind a podium. You think you can't watch that for 7 hours. Yes, you can.
I
Yes, you
swear
can.
it's an adrenaline dump, man. It's just like SportsCenter highlights like all day long. I feel exhausted when I'm done watching it. It's like, but then when the Cardinal game comes on, I'm Cardinals game 24. It's just the Cardinal game. The channel does not move.
Yep.
It just stays on the Cardinal game. So
Yep.
it's almost like a break I get, from the Red Zone channel, because the Red
flip
Zone
over and
channel
go.
is just nonstop, action. You're watching your fantasy football teams, and
It's like, that's my running back. That's my game. Yeah.
Then
God
all of a sudden-
box and 8 box and all that.
Exactly. You're trying to watch all those at the same time. Yeah. No, I can see what you mean by exhausting.
But it's quite funny. I mean, we're laughing here and I'm complaining about that. But I remember starting watching the NFL in the UK. It would be a highlight show from the week before on a Sunday evening.
oh wow,
The first that was all we'd get. It was like one Sunday highlight show, but it was the highlight show of the games the previous week. So it was nothing up to date. There was no late, live games or anything like that. That was how you got it. There was like a paper was brought out on a Thursday called First Down. And it was just like, you'd have to go and read that. And that's telling you about 2 weeks ago. And that's how you were kind of catching up with your teams. It was,
well, maybe
to be able to complain about it now is just like,
Hey, maybe that does affect or dictate what team you guys follow, right?
Oh, it was
I
absolutely.
don't care if you watch a clip from 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The Cardinals haven't been that good. So
That's why the Cardinals don't have such a great following in the UK. Yeah.
Right. Why would you want to follow that team? Like, no thanks. Where the 49ers are different. Seattle's, the last couple decades.
Cowboys,
Yeah.
49ers, Giants. All those teams that are 80s, 90s era have got big followings in the UK. All the newer teams are starting to get there because it's now more available. But for a generation like mine, you've got your team. You chose that team back in 85, 86. That's your team. It doesn't matter. You had to fight tooth and nail and claw to get any information about it. So that's your team. You love it. It doesn't matter what.
I mean, you guys must have a lot of Jags fans over there. They basically have a home.
They're getting there. They're getting there. But the Jags is a lot of
team, but they're there all the time.
Yeah. It's everybody's second team. Because all the guys that go to the Jags are fans like myself, right? So they knew the game. They loved the NFL. They had their teams already. The Jags are kind of like just the local team. So they're kind of getting a second team feel. and a new generation of fans is kind of taking the Jags to heart. But for the hardcore ones, that's why you go to a Jags game and you see every single jersey from throughout the years. You'll see LT's jerseys, you'll see Joe Montana, you'll see Tim Raffett, you'll see you'll see them all. And you'll also see Jags teams because, and that's what I think the players love. They come and they go, I see every jersey. What's going on? It's just like, hey, we just want to see a game. It doesn't matter who's there. We just want to see the game. And, yes, the Jags are growing, but again, always will be a second team for the older generation. The newer, younger generation, the kids that are coming through, yes, they can be the team that they can support.
In a sense, that's kind of like the Cardinals because there's two places in the U.S. that people go to retire. Okay, and that's Florida and Arizona, right? They say 10% or 11% of people that live in Arizona are from Arizona.
Wow.
Everybody else in Arizona is from other places, right?
Colder places.
And it shows, right? So they come out, they bring these allegiances with them. So whether it be, Wisconsin, Chicago, whatever, they were a Packers fan, Bears fan, whatever. But now, you know what? They're going to take on the Cardinals as their number one. Well, as soon as there's a little bump in the road, they're going to throw the Cardinals away and go back to their original allegiance, right? So we deal with a lot of that here, a lot of fair weather fans, a lot of,
when things are well, you're packing out the stadium. When
exactly.
Things are
There's like 9 or 10 diehard fans here. And so, we stick together and, but yeah, I tell people I'm a diehard Cardinal fan and I always get the same response back. I'm sorry. So, that's all you
Somebody's
got
to be right. That's
yeah.
it.
So
James,
my license plate is a Cardinals license plate says fan for life. And, it's tough.
It's all those sorts of things. I've got to get in. There's so many nuances and those little memorabilia things that you guys just take for granted. It's like you can't never get any of that stuff over here. I mean, my wall behind me is kind of pretty good, but it's like we have to go through the nth degree to get little. And I think the 49ers released something recently. It was like, hey, get yourself a 49er license plate. It's like, oh, come on. It's just not fair.
You know what? Just talking to you and hearing about that and your experience, that does make me appreciate, what I'm going through more. Because even though my team isn't having a great season, like I get to watch them, I get to, I can watch them every day of the week because I record the games. I can get Cardinal memorabilia wherever I want, and so yeah, that's pretty cool. It makes me look at it in a different light.
That is something that's a little different down here versus back home in Seattle. Is down here, most of it's going to be knockoff stuff if there is anything anyway.
Right.
But there's so much less because, back home, you're just like, oh, yeah, I want a new hat or a new jersey or,
this is Mexico. This is in Mexico.
That's pretty tight, though. But yeah, no, it's funny because you're at home, like you can just go down the street and you're going to pick something up and it's not a big deal. And then down here, it's like, yeah, you can probably grab something here and there, but it's not the same for sure.
So all right. Well, I think we're done, right?
Yeah, I think we lost him there.
Well, hey, as usual, it was great getting together.
Absolutely. Enjoy the man as much as you can anyway.
Yep.
All right, man.
Let's do it again next week.
You know it. Take it easy, man.
All right. See you, Bo.
Bye.